ASEAN is made up of 10 diverse markets, uniquely positioned at the heart of global trade routes. Home to a rapidly rising and affluent middle class, with one of the fastest growing digital landscapes, manufacturing hubs and abundant natural resources. ASEAN's strong fundamentals are driving its growth and resilience. With our knowledge and insights on local markets, Standard Chartered can help you accelerate your growth and navigate the complexities of each market. As you expand across ASEAN, we can support you with end-to-end solutions, streamlining processes across multiple jurisdictions, making it more efficient for you. We are leading on the ASEAN regional connectivity to integrate trade and payments in the region. To support the growing cashless ecosystem, we've digitized our cash management. From virtual accounts to a wide range of APIs, we've optimized digitization for your transaction and reporting needs. We are investing in fintech solutions and building new business models, creating efficiencies and better experiences for your customers. When it comes to working across ASEAN's supply chains to finance your imports, exports or inventory, and raising capital for your business, our award-winning capital market solutions are customized to your needs. As you expand outside your home market, our dynamic hedging offering helps your treasury team manage volatility, ensure price consistency, and deliver competitive margins. We're committed to promoting economic and social development in our markets. Our value and philosophy are embedded across our banking products and practices. With $75 billion committed towards sustainable development goals, we can help your business make a positive impact. ASEAN's future is bright. As your trusted banking partner, we are committed to supporting your growth ambitions, co-creating innovative and winning solutions with you. We are Standard Chartered. We are here for good.
Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Mustafa bin Mohamad, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Mr. Patrick Lee, Cluster Chief Executive Officer, Singapore and ASEAN Markets, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand and Rep Officers of Standard Chartered Bank, Puan Sharimaton, Pat Saleh, Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Export Acceleration of Martrade, Mr. Chua Chun Bin, Chairman of Phantom Master Corporation Berhad, Mr. Abra Anwar, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Corinne from Star Media Group, and I'll be your host for today's session. Thank you for tuning in to the final webinar of the Export Excellence Awards 2021 program. Today's webinar, Exports and Investments Across Trade Corridors, will be a 1.5-hour session. It is also being streamed live on Starbase Facebook page, so thank you for tuning in right now. Do share our Starbase Facebook page with any of your friends or colleagues who are keen to join. All right, a few housekeeping matters before we begin. As everyone dials into this webinar through different internet bandwidth and devices, you may or may not experience a minor technical glitch, so please be patient if there's any. To minimize the risk of technical glitches, all participants are muted and video cams turned off by default. Do participate by posting questions to our speakers at any time during the session. For Zoom, on your user panel, click on the Q&A button and post your questions. For Facebook Live, place it in the comment section. You can also interact with each other using the chat feature in Zoom or the comment section in Facebook. There will be a short survey at the end, so for those of us joining us on Zoom, please take a few minutes to complete it, as your opinion matters to us. And last, more importantly, do engage, learn and enjoy. Before we begin, allow me to do a quick introduction of Export Excellence Awards. The awards, formerly known as EEA, is into its second year. We are glad to have Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia returning as a partner, together with Matrade as patron, in championing the achievements of Malaysia's finest exporters. Through this award, we hope to motivate and inspire businesses to further elevate the awareness of Malaysian brands in the international arena. EEA is more than just celebrating the best of the best in the export world. The year-long program from its launch to the roadshows and judging sessions were designed to form a community for the export players. Through this, we are committed to build a fraternity that supports one another, share thought leadership, best practices, and corporate role models. For more information on the Export Excellence Awards, please visit our website at exportawards.my. Do note that our closing date has been extended to 24th September. On that note, let's take a look at a video we have prepared for you. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone here has an equal chance of being awarded. All you have to do is to identify the category as per your export business strength and tell us all about it. Once again, for more information on EEA, please visit our website at exportawards.com.my. Now, to begin today's session, it is our honor to invite Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Mustafa bin Mohamad, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, to present the keynote address.
Good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished guests, sponsors, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I've been informed that this is the second consecutive year the award is taking place, and I applaud the joint initiative between the Star Media Group, Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia, and Matrade to recognize Malaysia's exporters and acknowledge their contributions to the Malaysian economy. Malaysia is a very open economy, and the excellence sector has contributed a lot to our country's growth and development in the past decades. Exporting does not only benefit large companies, small and mid-tier companies are part of the supply chain, and more MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises, are aggressively expanding their market overseas. Ladies and gentlemen, through the Export Excellence Awards webinar, I hope all of you joining us today will take advantage of this free educational series and come up with strategies to access new markets to remain competitive. I'm sure the sharing by the panelists will spark ideas and inspire businesses to venture beyond their comfort zones to seek more global opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, MIADA is our leading investment promotion agency. Malaysia is also home to 5 investment corridors. The concept of investment corridors was first mooted in the 9th Malaysia Plan due to the growing concerns during the 1990s that urban-rural income disparities were beginning to widen. The corridors are meant to shift development focus away from the already developed regions such as the Klang Valley and instead spread the fruits of development nationwide. In trade promotion, MATRADE has done an excellent job in putting Malaysia on the world map. To be a successful trading nation, Malaysia has to be more aggressive in promoting our goods and services overseas. We have done well in palm oil and natural gas exports, for example. We have also emerged to be a big player in the E&E sector. Going forward, we have to continue building on our strength in these areas. We should further deepen the E&E sector and position Malaysia to be an even more important global player in this E&E sector. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, green investments and trade will become even more important in the years to come. We should plan ahead to ensure the goods and services we export continue to meet global standards and expectations. Exports must be greener in the years to come, and we should prepare for this new landscape now. Besides, we have to beef up the capabilities of our MSMEs to move up the value chain and become more globally competitive. We also have to do more to stimulate growth in the exports of services. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia's exports contracted by 0.8% in 2019 due mainly to subdued external demand. The decline in external demand and domestic investment activities resulted in lower demand for imports, which declined by 3.5%. In 2020, our exports declined further by 1.4% as the pandemic resulted in weaker growth in all major trading partners as well as lower commodity prices. Disruptions in the global manufacturing supply chains have further affected export activity in 2020. The decline in external and domestic demand collectively resulted in a further contraction in imports by about 6.3%. External performance rebounded in 2021, supported by the low base effect and stronger than expected economic growth in the US and China. Exports for the first 5 months of the year expanded by about 31%, contributed mainly by robust demand for electrical and electronic products, mainly semiconductors. This was mainly due to the increasing orders for work-from-home equipment and digitalization of businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, our exports to all major markets, namely ASEAN, China, the US, the European Union, and Japan, registered double-digit growth. Similarly, imports also rebounded strongly by 20.1% during the same period. We expect this trend to continue in the next few months. This year promises to be a good year for our trade and external sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia has established itself as one of the most trade-friendly countries in the world, exporting a competitive range of products and services to more than 200 countries and territories worldwide. In 2019, we were the world's 25th biggest trading nation, according to the World Trade Organization, or WTO. We should all work harder, not only to retain this position, but further improve our future rankings. I strongly encourage all Malaysian businesses to be innovative, to survive in this increasingly competitive world. External trade has been one of our brightest spots during this challenging year, and we should continue building on this strength. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation to the Star Media Group, Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia, MATRADE and partners for their collaboration in creating this platform for our local entrepreneurs to continue doing well. I'm sure you're all looking forward to the insightful panel discussion coming up. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Dato Sri Mustafa, for the forward-thinking message. Today's webinar will focus on the importance of trade connectivity for Malaysian exporters looking to expand internationally, centering on three areas: economic corridor development and how it can help businesses, various trade initiatives and how to capitalize on them, and programs available to help businesses grow and venture their network into various regions. For the panel discussion, we have the pleasure of having three renowned and respected experts in the field to share and enlighten us on issues as well as opportunities on exports and investments across trade corridors. We have Mr. Patrick Lee, Cluster's Chief Executive Officer, Singapore and ASEAN Markets, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand and Rep Officers of Standard Chartered Bank, Puan Sharmata Matsaleh, Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Export Acceleration of Martrade, and Mr. Chua Chun Bin, Chairman of Pentamaster Corporation Berhad. And the session will be moderated by Mr. Abra Anwar, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Standard Chartered Bank, Malaysia. Now, I will hand over the stage to you, Mr. Abra. Over to you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Mustafa bin Mohammed, for your insights on the development of economic corridor and various trade initiatives companies can capitalize on to venture and grow their network into various regions. I would also like to thank you, everyone here, for taking time out from your busy schedule to join us today. It is an honor for us to have industry experts to provide pertinent insights for businesses seeking to explore trade and investment opportunities across the region. With this, it is my great pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists. First, Mr. Patrick Lee, Cluster Chief Executive Officer, Singapore and ASEAN Markets, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Rep Offices, Standard Chartered Bank. As CEO of Singapore and ASEAN Markets, Patrick is responsible for steering and executing business development and strategy for the bank in Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand. These are key strategic markets for the bank, and Singapore is home to the bank's global businesses and technology and operations functions. Before assuming this role, Patrick was CEO Singapore and Head of Global Banking Singapore, where he was responsible for the bank's corporate and institutional client business. Then Sharimathon Matsaleh, Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Martrade. Puan Sharmata is the Deputy CEO of the Exporters Development in Martrade and is responsible for leading, planning, and coordinating various teams involved in implementing export assistance and facilitation programs in the Transformation and Digital Trade Division. Then is Mr. Chua Chun Bin, Chairman, Pentamaster Corporation Berhad. Mr. Chua currently sits on the board of Pentamaster International Limited as the Executive Director and Chairman. PIL is a subsidiary of the company and was listed on the main board of the Stock Exchange of Hong Kong Limited on 19 January 2018. Mr. Chua also holds directorships in subsidiary companies of PIL. Prior to setting up of the group, he served as an automation engineer for National Semiconductor and Intel Technology Malaysia. With his vast experience in the design and manufacturing of automation equipment and vision inspection system, he has developed the group to its present level of success, from a simple automation house to a high technology group specializing in providing factory automation equipment, system and information communication technology solutions to industrial and commercial customers. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel discussion could not be at a more crucial time. With the recent prolonged lockdown setting back Malaysian economic recovery timeline, trade connectivity is seen as one of the crucial engines to refuel economic growth by sourcing new avenues, delivery of products to new market segments, and entering new partnerships that can strengthen business growth of Malaysian companies. Companies can go beyond borders to seek opportunities by leveraging on trade agreements such as Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or the African Continental Free Trade Area to give the country's economy a much needed boost for a swift and robust recovery during these challenging times. For example, RCEP will be able to cover a market of 2.2 billion people with a combined size of 24.8 billion of world GDP, while the other bloc can cater to 1.1 billion people. Without further ado, we will move to our panel discussion right away. But I would just like to add that Standard Chartered, being a bank focused in Asia, Africa, and Middle East, we are focused on bringing Malaysia to the world and world to Malaysia. So thanks once again for joining us. I will now like to hear more from our panelists. First, I would like to go to Patrick and ask Patrick, tell us more about the development of economic corridors and what benefits they can bring to the businesses. Maybe if you can share in like 3 minutes, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Abra. First of all, can I just say it's a real pleasure and honor to be invited to be a panelist here. This very important topic, and it's great to see that we can all participate in a format like this, notwithstanding the challenges that we see from COVID. I think as the Honorable Minister mentioned, really economic corridors, trade activity is really the engine of recovery for the world, right, coming out of COVID. And at the same time, there are some very important shifts that are happening in trade, and which I think we should all be aware of, and where the opportunities and benefits we really should think about. Now, if we think about Malaysia and Standard Chartered's role, Abra mentioned, we've been bringing the world to Malaysia and Malaysia to the world for many, many years. Malaysia, obviously, like many other tiger economies in the region, grew very sharply towards the end of the last century as manufacturing and trade opened up, and there was globalization of trade, and that really helped spur a lot of growth in manufacturing exports in Malaysia. The 20th century has seen some changes, and in the last 5-10 years have become a bit more challenging in this front. So we've seen global trade flows reduce. We've seen rising protectionism. We've also seen more disruption from digitalization, which has changed the way typically supply chains move. And I think the big developments for us in this part of the world really on the geopolitical front, where you're seeing obviously more trade tensions between China, the major big superpowers, China, the US, and other areas. So what does that mean for Malaysia and for all of us? It does mean that we have to think about how these things are changing. We have to think about the impact of digitalization on economic corridors. We have to think about the impact of changing supply chains. And on top of that, you layer on top of that the effects of COVID, which are in some ways accelerating a lot of these trends that we've been seeing. So digitalization, the fact that we're meeting like this, fully digital format, has changed the way economic corridors work, how we interact with each other, and also promoting digitalization. So, and the other thing that's also happened with this is that people are rethinking their supply chains in terms of, we look at the bottlenecks, things moving around, it's more difficult now than it was. Services, trade, typical services in hospitality, travel, those have all been curtailed. But on the other hand, we're seeing a big boom in manufacturing, and that's again related to the digital economy as people are buying more iPhones. You saw that Apple results just came out very strong. People are buying more chips to power devices so that they can communicate more digitally. And so the supply chains are becoming more tied to digitalization and globalization. And this is really changing the way we think about things. From a geographic perspective, we're seeing a reorientation of supply chains in this part of the world. We're seeing more intra-Asia trade, more trade between China and ASEAN. And as China emerges, we've seen China replace a lot of other developed economies as the major trading partner for this part of the world. And as people look at geopolitical trends and people are looking at moving supply chains out of China and into this part of the world. So a lot of changes that we see. But at the same time, these bring real economic benefits to a lot of countries in the region, including Malaysia, because we're seeing the demand for trade, demand for goods really increase, especially in the digital space. We're seeing the components that provide the digital economy, they will all still be required. So notwithstanding that we're seeing reduction in travel, we are expect to see a pickup in trade and the flow of goods to really support this new digital economy. So what does that mean for all of us in ASEAN? I think there will be really good opportunities, especially as we emerge from COVID, to think about countries like Malaysia, which have very strong infrastructure, stable rule of law, good manufacturing facilities, very established. We can leverage off that infrastructure to think about, and I'm sure companies like Pentamaster are doing this in a very strong way. Think about how we leverage what the benefits we have, but we have to also change and pivot very quickly, because the traditional forms of manufacturing, the traditional forms of supply chains are changing quite dramatically. We have to rethink about how we trade, how we deliver, how we source our raw materials, how we interact with our buyers and sellers. Yeah, things are moving very, very fast. And the other big piece I think that is emerging out of this, where I think there'll also be benefits from an economic corridor perspective, is the whole business of sustainability. I think COVID has also accelerated, like digitalization, COVID has accelerated this trend where I think people realize that the planet is probably not in as good a state as we had all hoped. That climate change is accelerating, and therefore the need to really accelerate the investment in sustainability, to think more harder about how we promote sustainable energy, sustainable activities, sustainable trade. All these are also changing very dramatically, and we expect these trends to accelerate. Again, countries like Malaysia are very well positioned for this. So just in the same way we see increased demand in the digital economy, we also see increased demand for sustainable type activities, whether it's in energy production or whether it's in sustainable forms of manufacturing or trade. These are areas that I think we'll see more benefits coming through. And finally, I just to mention a little bit about ASEAN. ASEAN, Standard Chartered as a bank, we are active in all 10 ASEAN markets. We are very positive about the ASEAN story. You think about it, it's probably the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world, young population, growing very fast, 2 trillion plus economy, getting close to 500 to a billion population. We are seeing really good trends in terms of emerging affluent, emerging middle class, growing demand for trade, growing demand for all the things we talked about earlier. And this will be an attractive market as we emerge from COVID. So think about, we are spending a lot of time thinking about how intra-ASEAN trade will pick up and how the economic corridors within ASEAN will strengthen, as we need to become more resilient within our own region to counter some of the trends we see on the geopolitical front and on the digital front. So those are some observations from myself. I look forward to hearing more questions and participating with the other panel members. Thank you, Abraham.
Thanks, Patrick. I think that's a great lay of land that you have shared in terms of how this pandemic, which like a black swan event, impacted global trade and which are the areas that are now seeing incremental growth opportunities. And also the intra-ASEAN as well as global trade. And Malaysia being a big trading nation, I think export has really performed very well, and I think in this context. But I'm sure the exporters of Malaysia or the people who have been trading have been facing tremendous challenges. So at this moment, I would like to go to Puan Sarimathan and Mr. Chua. One question to both of them, maybe Puan Sarimathan, you can address it first. What are the challenges of cross-border trade, and how can businesses tackle them in order to take advantage of the rising global demand for exports? So you have great experience in trade, and you've been in touch with all these stakeholders. So we'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abra. First of all, thank you for having Matrade in this webinar. It's a great pleasure to be with the esteemed panelists. Before I go into the challenges, I think let's look at the trade performance just as a background setting of where we are right now. And yesterday was the announcement of Malaysia's trade performance, and we can see tremendous growth. And it's actually something quite surprising to many of us, because we have hit the 10 consecutive month year-on-year of expansion since September 2020. And this is only the third time in this year where we've hit more than 100 billion ringgit in terms of exports. And just from January to June, total trade numbers have already reached 1 trillion ringgit. And this is a lot faster than past performance. So definitely the premise that there is rising demand for our exports, for our goods, our services is very true. There's a lot of demand out there. And we in Madrid, as the National Trade Promotion Agency that assists Malaysian exporters to navigate their way into the export market, are ever ready to help Malaysian exporters. So yes, in terms of challenges, I mean, even doing business in your own country, there's challenges. So what more, you know, when you are trading with foreign companies. So of course, there's a lot of uncertainties in that sense. You don't know who to meet. You don't particularly know how to be introduced, and you don't particularly know perhaps a lot about that market. And that's where we come in, because finding reliable partners is what we do in Madrid. We are like your business matchmaker, your export matchmaker. And just this year alone, and I think the COVID pandemic has already actually speed things up to an unprecedented level, because now we do this webinar virtually, and all our business meetings now are all done on digital format. And this enables a lot more connectivity to happen between our Malaysian exporters to the foreign buyers. And just this year alone, we've organized more than almost 600 business meetings, and these are for products of various categories. Of course, when we look at the trade performance, Mr. Chua's business, he's in the right business. Electrical electronics always one of the top categories. And we have a strong ecosystem in Malaysia. And it's not just about the multinationals. Sometimes when we talk about electrical electronics, the first thing that comes to mind are only the multinationals, the Intels, Western Digitals. But there are companies like Pentamaster who supports the ecosystem, and the ecosystem has grown a lot, and they're able to contribute, and they have been exporting to many countries. Of course, he'll be able to share a lot more on his end, but for us, that means in terms of finding reliable partners, we have 46 overseas office. We can do business matching. We also do a lot of, and one of the key challenges that our SMEs often tell us is that information. They want to know what are the market regulations, is there any new tariff, new import duty being imposed, are there any labeling requirements, are there any registration needs that come out. So that's where we come in. So we have, if you're a Madrid member, and I encourage people who are interested in export to be a Madrid member, all this information can be right at your fingertips. It's live, it's 24/7, as and when our trade office overseas upload the document, you can already read any changes in regulations, any increase in tariffs, any new guidelines that any exporters need to deal with. So finding reliable partners, information, and of course there are other barriers as well. And one of it is language and things like, besides just the tariff, there's also the other non-tariff, or it's not clear-cut, it's not just about taxes. There are also some other requirements that exporters need to know. And I think we can have further discussion on that as we move along in our conversation.
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll go to Mr. Chua now, who has really built a fantastic company, and I'm sure in this journey you have seen challenges and you have overcome those, and this pandemic has created another new horizon. Maybe we would like to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Abra, and good afternoon, everybody. Yes, challenges in any business, there's a challenges, whether in a normal time or in the, especially now the pandemic time. And during this pandemic time, the challenges are business landscape had changed. The way how we do business with our customer had changed totally. If we do not well prepare, that means we're going to lose a lot of opportunity. Because our business opportunity, business nature is export. And we need to import and export. Import means in terms of supply chain. Export means whatever we do, we export, and then we need to send people over there at the customer side, on site to do installation. And because of the pandemic, there's a cross-border restriction traveling. This is the biggest challenges for our nature of business. Because for all the automation machine that we ship overseas, we need to send our engineer, our staff engineer, our programmer, to go on site to do commissioning, to do installation. And this has posed big challenges to our normal way of doing business. Because in the past 20 years, every machine we ship, we send engineers. But suddenly pandemic came last year, 2019, which caught everybody by surprise. And our business was really affected. And this year, fortunately, we have to take some quick action. The quick action is that we have to change the way how we do business now. We have to go do online meeting, do online buy-off, do online setup, do online installation in the sense like hiring local people to assist us to do online setting. And another thing is the supply chain is another issue. When there's a lockdown in local Malaysia, our supply chain are being locked down as well. Especially last year when MCO1, most of our supply chain like fabricator, those SME that providing the fabrication part, they can't even operate. But when MITI allowed to operate at 50%, 60%, and we start to regain back our business. And this year, we also operate at 60% in the beginning of the year, now 80%. And our customer demand, the challenges is both sides. One is import also having a challenges in the sense shipment. Everybody know, lately the shipping, the container shortage, the flight was being restricted. This posed a lot of tremendous pressure on our side and also on our customer side. This is in a cycle, because there's an electronic shortage as well. And then all the components we cannot get. At the same time, we cannot ship out. So everything in the vicious cycle. So now the supply chain used to be, we can buy things in 2 weeks. Now talking about 6 months or 9 months. So in terms of forecast and planning with our customer is very, very important and crucial. And in the past, we've been talking about globalization. Today, business landscape has changed to more to localization. Globalization in terms of like supply chain, in terms of sending our people, everywhere, we cannot do now. So what we do to mitigate the situation, we have to set out local offices in Japan, in US, in China, local hire to train all these people to help us to do the local setup, to do local installation, to do local sourcing, at the same time help us to ship the thing parts back to Malaysia. So this transformation of business model, had to take place very, very fast. And this has happened that, all the E&E sector are growing, the demand are growing. And this year we see like just now, Matre said the export is 30% higher, Actually, this year we expect to see 30 to 50% growth in terms of our business opportunity. But we have a limitation in terms of supply chain. Supply chain is still the biggest problem. Electronic shortage, not only Malaysia are being locked down, Thailand, Japan, everywhere are being restricted. So this has created the challenges for us. But these challenges become an opportunity for us. Because of the pandemic, a lot of people cannot send their workers and operators to go to the site and work because social distancing. More factory automation are coming up. factory automation become a very essential part of the manufacturing. Because past 5 years, people talking about Industrial 4.0. Industrial 4.0, at the time, people still lukewarm, whether I should go in, But today, people are being forced to go in. People see the advantage of having, factory automation. Industrial 4.0 means you can run your operation with very few people inside the factory. You can run the factory with remote control. You can run with a lot of automation. This is the opportunity come. The challenges become opportunity. So in an E&E sector, where you can see there's a high demand, surge in demand of automated equipment in the semiconductor side, in the consumer market side, everybody is looking for automation. Harvest is plenty, but Malaysia, we don't have enough engineers. Worker is not enough. So we're looking for engineers, graduate, So today, engineers have a lot of opportunity in the job market. During this pandemic, I wouldn't say, Malaysia become, the job unemployment become bad. But in fact, there is a growing demand in the factory workers, especially on the engineering field, on the technician field. So it's not a recession. It's the way how we look at these challenges become opportunity. I always tell my customer, without your customer PO, purchase order, P stand for problem. Your problem is my O is my opportunity. That's why we got the PO. I define a customer PO because all these challenges become my opportunity.
Yeah.
So as a Malaysian company, especially on the automation side, the opportunity is huge. Opportunity is huge, but we don't have enough workers. Okay, thank you.
Okay. No, Mr. Cho, thank you very much. Normally we see that, wow, E&E sector is doing well and, Penta Mustard doing well. But behind that, the challenges that you face and you overcome that is really amazing to hear. And also I like this PO, problem is equal to opportunities. Yeah, so it really resonates with our theme this year, thriving in adversity. Our excellence award for this year is like thriving in adversity. Yeah. Yes. So maybe a lot of good points from you. Thank you very much. Maybe I'll go to Patrick now. Patrick, since you're the regional head sitting in Singapore, covering multiple markets, do you see the similar challenges being faced by exporters or the business people of other markets in the region that you cover?
Yes, I think everything that Mr. Chua have mentioned is very similar in all our markets. Yes, I was just saying that we see very similar stories from across the markets in ASEAN and Asia. As you know, Asia is the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, and a lot of similar stories. And it really is a question of who can really take advantage of the opportunities, who can thrive, first of all, who can protect their business, protect their people, their infrastructure, and then pivot and digitalize and move forwards. So we're seeing many examples of this all around the region. And really, it's incumbent on us to do that. There's some really good examples in Malaysia. I'll bring to life two examples that the bank has seen clients of us and who we've supported through this. One example is supporting one of our clients called Titan Entity. They integrated their production line with various smart machinery and Industry 4.0 technologies. And when they've upgraded these Industry 4.0 upgraded, they expected to see a 20 to 25% improvement in output and able to recoup the costs within a year's period. So I think businesses need to obviously protect, shore up their people and the health and safety procedures, deal with COVID, but also look at the fact that digitalization, investing in technology upgrading is no longer a choice, but a fundamental business strategy that will need to be built into your growth plan. Another good example is a business in Malaysia called Recron Malaysia, part of the Reliance Group, accelerated its digitalization efforts to ensure business continuity. As a significant portion of the company's revenues come from exports to various countries, we had to really focus on digital solutions to overcome the complexity of processes and the volume of documentation for quicker turnaround time with better risk and cash flow management. By utilizing solutions that Standard Chartered provided, they were able to manage to automate export processes, collaborating with trade partners such as shipping lines, customs, and other government agencies through a digital trade platform. The trade platform enabled end-to-end online documentation for exports and facilitated electronic presentations that removed the need for manually querying hard copy of documents and reducing the reliance on physical interaction. So these, I think, are trends that we'll see. Standard Chartered Bank, we are fortunate to have been investing even before COVID heavily into digitalizing our sales channels, our client engagement channels, both on the retail and the wholesale side. And we invested about $1 billion in the last few years before COVID. And that really helped us because on the retail side, the consumer side, for example, when COVID hit, we were able to do a lot of interactions with our clients fully digitally. Our clients can open bank accounts, get credit cards, acquire credit cards, all online without having to have a face-to-face meeting. And so that was fortunate. And online adoption of these channels doubled in both the retail and the wholesale space. So on the corporate side, again, similar to what I just mentioned, we are investing with our clients in digitalizing a lot of these processes, addressing, as Mr. Chua said, the complexities of how do you do business, how do you do trade documentation, how do you service clients when you can't travel, when you can't have paper documentation flowing as much freely as you used to. So these things will all accelerate, and in and of themselves, they do present business opportunities. So those companies that are able to get behind it, are able to move forward, I think they will succeed, especially so in ASEAN. And I think the other thing I'd say is that there are new emerging industries that will also benefit from this. I think one area that I would call out is the health tech industry, where again, increased focus on health, and technological innovation in health. These are areas that I think will be of great interest. And the other area I would say is, again, talked about earlier, is sustainability, renewable energy. Any businesses that can reduce carbon emissions will also, I think, see good growth. And it's also incumbent upon existing businesses to see how they can reduce carbon emissions in line as carbon prices will go up, and as there's increased focus from customers and society at large for a greener planet.
Thank you, Patrick. I think what you have said resonated with what Mrs. Chua also said, that how to pivot in managing through a crisis can give opportunities. So I think adopting digital delivery channels and accelerating that, of course, the customers got helped and also the bank could navigate in this period. Now I would go to Puan Sherry-Marthon. As you have heard from both the other panelists, that in adversity there are opportunities. So being sitting in Martrade, and you are very experienced in driving trade growth opportunities for Malaysian corporates, be it small, medium, large enterprises. So what are the regional initiatives or incentives that are there where our exporters can take advantage? Looking at the landscape, some of the markets is underpenetrated by the Malaysian exporters. How is Martrade going to help? Like, for example, if you take Africa, only 2% of export goes to Africa. There may be other unpenetrated markets. So what is Martrade doing about it, as well as what are your suggestions and recommendations to the exporters?
Excellent question. One of the, of course, we are in Asia, so definitely we have to look first within ASEAN and ASEAN Plus. And we all know that RCEP was signed just last year in November. And within these 15 economies, there's just abundance of opportunities. And, I think you've mentioned this before, it's almost 30% of world GDP, almost 30% of population. And this is where the growth area is. And although a lot of companies, a lot of SMEs know this, but perhaps the issue is they don't know how to leverage on it. So actually there's process for you to actually apply to benefit from this FTA that was negotiated, and this having, I mean, this is, RCEP is the only free trade agreement where China, Korea and Japan have a free trade agreement, and then plus that with all of ASEAN 10. So this is something that cannot be ignored. And then we look at other trade initiatives in terms of trade agreements. It has been proven when we look at our bilateral free trade agreements, whenever there's a new bilateral free trade agreement, the export the following year just increased by a lot. For example, when Malaysia, Turkey, we signed the FTA, then we could see huge jump. For Turkey, it was specifically more on palm oil. And in the first year, it jumped like a crazy amount, like 500%. And when we signed an FTA with Chile, exports of chemical products increased like 600%. And then the same with when we signed a bilateral agreement, free trade agreement with New Zealand, we could see tremendous growth. And then Mr. Abrar, you mentioned about Africa. There's a lot more to be done in Africa, in the sense that probably we don't quite know enough about Africa, that probably the Malaysian exporters are shying away or unsure on doing business with Africa. But they themselves, they have created or they are, negotiating what they call an exciting game changer, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So this African Continent Free Trade Agreement will be, if it comes in force, will be the largest free trade area in the world. And we all know the huge population there. It will be connecting something like 1.3 billion people across 55 countries, with GDP reaching 3.4 trillion US dollars. And we know that there are various levels of development over there. So there are lesser developed countries, there are more developed countries. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to leverage on this, because we have already moved up to a certain level that we can provide better goods and services. And I like the point that Patrick mentioned about sustainability. This is actually our edge, because a lot more of our buyers are looking for sustainable products. It's not just about being cost competitive. I mean, how cost competitive can we be against countries like China? I mean, our cost, Sichua mentioned about labor, so that can be constraints here and there in terms of being cost competitive. So adopting the ESG, environment, social and governance within the company's practices is one way to position a differentiating factor. And in Madrid, we are championing sustainability as one of the ways and means to differentiate ourselves. And we have a blueprint called the National Trade Blueprint. It was approved already in Cabinet in April. It's yet to be launched, but in essence, one of the key pillars there is about sustainability. And if you look at Africa, a lot of the economies there, the countries there, are quite dependent still on oil and gas, on minerals. And we in Malaysia, because we have also the likes of Petronas and the suppliers to vendors to Petronas, who are in a good position to leverage on the booming opportunities in Africa. And we have just, within Africa itself, we have 4 trade offices in Johannesburg, we have in Lagos, in Nairobi, and in Egypt, in Cairo. So this your springboard, leverage on Madrid to assist you to know more about the markets, and there's just abundance of opportunities. It's just too many to tell in this 5-10 minutes. So yeah, there's a lot to leverage on.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Pon. I think you touched on some very, very important areas for further diversification of Malaysian exports to the greater world opportunities. I really like that. You mentioned the single market of 1.4 billion people, with trillions of dollars of GDP. It's a galloping opportunity for Malaysia, because I know when we talk about exports to Africa, because we are the largest international bank in the African continent, if I'm talking about Standard Chartered. But people are a bit worried how to connect with them. So that's where using Smart Trade and also banks like us, who has a presence there, can show how to manage the risks of export out there. Thank you. Thank you for great points for people who are listening in, that opportunity can be tapped into. With that, I will go to Mr. Chua. You have last time you mentioned about the challenges and how you've turned into opportunities. My question to you is that E&E sector has been growing pretty nicely for Malaysia, and it took almost 34% of the country's exports. It's a major play for Malaysia. So forward looking, with your learning from pandemic, what are the opportunities that you see of the high-tech end for Malaysian corporations to move forward? I'm sure there's a lot of changes going to happen in the new world order.
Okay, very coincident, these 2 to 3 years, the trade war started with trade war US and China. In fact, the trade war between US and China had created a lot of trade diversion opportunity to Malaysian companies, especially on the E&E sector. US is, US and China, this IP issue, and then US company have to start moving out from China for the manufacturing, and then they start to relocate. And then China looking at it, there's a vacuum. Suddenly, if all these people are moving out from China, they need to speed up. So opportunity come again. Opportunity come because when China speed up, they are hungry for technology. They are hungry for equipment. They're hungry for automation. They're hungry for everything. You look at them, they are going around the world buying company. Even Malaysia automation company, they are being bought. Some of them are being bought over. Singapore also being bought over. Because any technology to do with manufacturing related to electronics, they are hungry. Because China have a vision. They want to be self-sufficient in terms of electronics. Because today, everything you're talking about IoT, especially the EV car coming up now, electric vehicle, a lot to do with semiconductor as well. And it happened that this semiconductor sector are growing. China is growing, US is also going for green, China is going for green, everybody is talking about ESG, just now we're talking about environmental, social and corporate governance. So this environmental become a challenges to a company. If to the industry that you don't transform, you cannot survive. And for us, like if you are into this sector, especially in the electronic side, where related to green, there is a lot of opportunity in Malaysia. Because of the trade diversion, not everything from US going to be in China. So they are coming back to Malaysia. Coming to Southeast Asia. You can see Vietnam, Indonesia, they are start opening up. Okay, these are the opportunities. Look at Malaysia, used to be, the last 40, 50 years are the semiconductor, Silicon Valley, so-called. Silicon Valley to the east. But after that, year 2000, you moved to China. China now want to be self-sufficient. And the opportunity is, if Malaysia continue to produce good talent in the engineering, and then to have a good infrastructure, and the manufacturing facility are being upgraded, be fully automated with high-end quality, consistency, I think we don't have to look at cheap labor. Today, in a high-end electronic world, you don't talk about cheap labor anymore. Everything talk about automation. You don't use 1 hour's 5 ringgit, 6 ringgit labor, no more. You cannot work on the manufacturing, especially in this era. You're looking at automation. So SME in Malaysia are facing the challenges of how to get themselves into automation. First, they have resources issue like monetary and the skilled people. I think this one is government looking at it very hard to help, especially MIDA have this DISF fund, domestic investment strategic fund to help the local people. 30 years ago, Panda Master was a very small company. And we are thankful the government, MIDA, has given us the grant, has given us the encouragement. Matre have helping us to promote our product overseas, sponsorship, subsidy, go everywhere. So today we are different. 20 years ago, we used to import machine to Malaysia. Now Malaysia are exporting machinery to Germany, to Europe, to Japan. Especially if Japanese can accept your automation, that means Malaysia quality are something, there must be something high quality they only can accept. So I think in terms of technology, there is no boundary. Whether you are European, you are Chinese, you are Indian, or everybody is equal. It's a matter of a mentality, education, how we promote, how we encourage the youngster. So these challenges in Malaysia I'm facing now, it's not on the business, it's more on the worker. If today I have another 100, 200 good engineers, I will hire them. But the problem is, we are competing with multinational companies in Malaysia. Like Malaysia, FDI, promoting FDI. When we are promoting FDI, we are not against FDI. But SMI, SME will be suffer. In the same competition, these are the challenges. For the country, you need to have balance. You need to have FDI. At the same time, you also need to promote SMI. Correct? Because SMI create local branding. Local branding. Malaysia need to promote local branding. We need to have local branding. Local branding is very important. Like China, into making their own. Malaysia cannot always be a contract manufacturing, cannot be always manufacturing parts for multinational. For Malaysia to move on, we need to move on to own the IP, own the branding, and then position. We don't have to be, look at a certain country in Europe, they are very small countries, small population, but they can own brand. Population is not a quantity that counts, it's a quality that counts. So the challenges for us to face in a semiconductor is people. Supply chain is just a logistic, can be settled. It's people. And I want to thankful to Malaysian custom. Malaysian custom, in fact, is very friendly, in the sense easy for import and export. That is the beauty of doing business in Malaysia. If you're doing business in China, import-export will be very tough. The custom, I wouldn't say the custom here not stringent, but they are very friendly. The system are good, easy for import and export.
Yeah.
So that is one of, having set foot your manufacturing plant here. So I hope Malaysia don't look for, just bring the manufacturing for the sake of investment. Bring something high-tech, and then train up our workers to a high-end skill. These are the challenges, I think, for Malaysian to face. For some, I think we have 30, 40 years experience, people here.
No, I think, Mr. Chua, thank you very much. I think you gave a very, very good perspective on what are the future opportunities and how Malaysia can tap into it. One angle that you mentioned, it's really is the key thing that we are also looking. What will be the skill set of the future? Correct. What are the skill set that we'll need? So what you mentioned is basically, if we are going for higher end economic sector, we need to have the ecosystem of the engineers and it has to go in tandem, which I think Ministry of Higher Education, we were having a meeting the other day. They're also trying to engage with the industry like yourselves to really understand what future workforce do we need. And we as a bank also are finding ourselves what kind of skill set we will need in future, what the future bankers would look like. I think with that note, maybe I'll go to, I'm just doing a bit of a time check. We are having a lot of Q&A. 4:25 is what we'll try to close. But in the meantime, towards the end, I will ask each one of you to give a 1-minute overview. But now let me take some questions. First one to Patrick. With the current pandemic situation, do you see the trade moving back to what it was in 2019 within the next few years? It's like $1 million question. Are we ever going to go back to pre-pandemic level? What's your view?
Thanks, Ambra. I think when you heard already from Wan Chariton and Mr. Chua, the strong demand we're seeing, I have no doubt that trade levels will go back pretty quickly to pre-pandemic levels. In fact, if you look at GDP as a yardstick, China will get back to 2019 GDP level this year. Singapore probably later this year, Malaysia sometime next year, and trade is in a way leading that. So I fully expect in the next 1 to 2 years that we will be back to the levels as we were in 2019. The big question then is the trajectory from there, at what level, at what pace it goes. And I think there's every opportunity for it to continue to grow faster than GDP. If economies and if companies can pivot and do the things that we were talking about through this symposium. If you can digitalize, we can take advantage of the increased need for digital goods, sustainability. These are high growth areas that I think we will see big demand for. So I'm pretty confident, assuming that we get vaccination rates up by the end of this year, but I'm pretty confident that trade will lead the economic recovery and it will get back to 2019 levels in the next 1 or 2 years.
Thank you, Patrick. Now I'll go to Puan Swarimatan. The question, actually I'll combine 2 questions for you so that you can answer in one go. With all the high export numbers, would you be able to share which sectors are thriving? This could give us an indication where we should invest. And also, does Martrade still give support in terms of grants and incentives when for trade missions we are able to travel out of Malaysia in order to sell our products?
Thank you. When we look at the growth numbers, of course, we will analyze it. And one of the booming sector is again electrical electronics, and this has to do with the semiconductor, the chips that goes in not just our devices, handphones, laptops, iPads, what have you, but a lot more products are becoming smart. Like you have autonomous vehicles, you have sensors everywhere. So definitely, electrical electronics is one of the thriving sectors with abundance of opportunities. And then in this pandemic, medical devices, medical products, gloves, we are the largest producer in the world. And of course, we have to, that's why the sustainability element is important, because it's about people, process, planet. Whatever we do, we have to be mindful of our people, the processes to ensure excellent, good corporate governance, and the planet, in the sense that we are not polluting the environment. And palm oil is also another sector that is booming. And if you look at palm oil, it goes down to the small holders, even rubber products, the gloves, rubber tappers, people in the villages, not just the big conglomerate in this sector. So the repercussion is massive. And in terms of incentive, our incentives goes on even a lot more. We are giving a lot more. We have added more scopes to what we give. For example, market development grant is something that we have been giving out for many years. It's a reimbursable grant for companies to claim after they have done their promotional events. So now we also include things like virtual participation, because a lot of trade fairs organizers are now charging for fees for participating in virtual events, because there's so many technology elements being introduced. So you can also claim for those kind of expenses to be reimbursed after your participation. And then there's we look at even our own events like MIHAS, which is the largest halal showcase. We are turning it into a virtual show. We are even doing the business matching digitally since April, and we've got lots of leads, a lot of sales already concluded, and the show is not even open yet. It will open officially in September until the end of the year virtually. And we look at e-commerce. You know, we have incentives on e-trade to participate in, especially for the smaller SMEs. You know, you don't have the capacity to do big containers, B2B transaction. You can also adopt the B2C, business to consumer platforms, and push your products globally. And we are mindful of these changes, so we are also introducing things like, you know, in terms of digitalization, the way we do marketing is not the same anymore. We've partnered with Google to do, you know, to educate our exporters how to be more visible, how to do more data analytics, how to do more digital marketing. So there's training elements. There's a lot of online and offline promotion that we do. And then in terms of services, not to neglect services. Sometimes people think Matrade only assists the trade in goods, but also services. So for example, with our services export funds, there are companies that have made inroads in Africa. A company that does bitumen road surfacing, and they're doing very well. They spoke in one of our event previously, ProBase, where they have done very well in Africa, and certain companies have also leveraged on this services export fund to do engineering works in Somalia, oil and gas services in Tanzania, and in the Middle East, in Oman, in Qatar, in UAE, and our trade missions. Recently, our CEO, our senior minister have led 3 trade missions, and the deals that has been negotiated is just abundance in the billions, because we talk to the largest importers, which maybe the Malaysian companies on their own may not be able to approach, but when it's a high level delegation, we get to meet big corporations, leading importers, and they are eager to source more products from Malaysia.
Thank you very much. I think you have touched upon one very interesting area where Malaysia definitely has a very good edge, is the halal ecosystem and the halal trade. It's a $1 trillion business it is, and with the Halal Development Corporation, there are a lot of initiatives that we are also taking to connect these Malaysian exporters to the halal ecosystem. Thank you very much. Now I'll go to Ms. Chua. There's a question. In fact, I'll combine 2 questions to you as well. As a business person, what advice can you give for reaching out to new clients? Sometimes it is hard to gauge whether someone is genuine or not in doing business. And I'll add with that, I think people have listened to your deliberation. It sounds like automation is the way to go. However, a small SME like mine has limited resources and capital to move in that direction. Do you have any advice on how I can tackle this?
Okay, what was your first question again?
Question was like, because you are like, you have started small and now has become big. I'm sure you had gauge a customer, how to look for customers, how to find it. It's going to be value addition for people who are exploring. Yeah.
Okay, to nurture a customer is not easy. Like 30 years ago when we started, it took me about 1 or 2 years to break through. Yeah, I mean, it starts small. I always believe a small success, a small little success, it brings a bigger success. So don't be, too ambitious for the beginning. At least you bring some success means at least you can see a result. Why look for somewhere nearby customer? Don't say, oh, today I want to export. Let's say in Malaysia, there's a lot of multinational company in Malaysia. There's a lot of opportunity. And find an anchor customer. This anchor customer become your godfather customer. I always say, in any business, you must have a godfather. First, the main anchor customer. From there, he become your main income source. Then main income source, you have money, your cash, you start to develop. And then from there, your reputation will start growing. And participation in exhibition is important, but it's costly. I mean, to the SME, it's very costly. If you participate in any overseas exhibition, it might cost you 200 or 100,000. It's not cheap. But MIDA have this combined booth, in any trade fair. MIDA, allow SME to participate together under the MIDA umbrella. Or your website have to be, make it, your product had to be promoted heavily on the online, in your website. Second thing is, when you have a customer, for me, how I gain my customer, my customer is mainly multinational. My first customer started with 300 ringgit. That's how I started. The 300 ringgit is from a multinational company. That is become my breakthrough, because I can use it as my, use it as a testimony. Your customer always say, who is your customer? I say Seagate, for example. Wow, Seagate. They never ask you how much. You see, you have a customer already. From there you grow. When it's 100 ringgit or 200 ringgit, it doesn't matter. It's the first customer that's bring a very important breakthrough for you, and also encouragement for you to enter into a multinational company. At that time, it was a joy for me. 300 ringgit is a joy, just like you strike a lottery. It's nothing. It's 30 years ago, 300. It's a I managed to get a 300, and then in my company profile, who is your customer? I can put Seagate there. Very important is branded. So from there you start, you grow, and then ensure no cut corner. Quality delivery are very important. Quality. Whatever you do, quality is important. Today, people don't buy for cheap thing. People buy for value add. Whatever you do must have a value add. So you look for customer, is from there you grow slowly, the customer will recommend customer, because a customer engineer inside there, they will not stay there forever. One day they quit the company, they go to another company, they will bring you to another company. That's how I get my customer. From one customer to another, the employee of the company is very important. The second question you are asking is,
how to, the automation is the way forward. Is a small SME, how can I get into
automation is costly. Okay, automation, I always advise SME, before you start any automation, get your operation right, get your system right. A system like your SOP, standard of operation right. Once you have a standard operation right, you systemize it. You can using Excel spreadsheet. You don't have to use SAP, whatever. Get it right. From there, when you have everything in automation, doesn't mean spend millions, spend 100,000, put machinery, put robotics. Get your system SOP right. When your process are right, you will improve in your quality, you improve in your delivery, you improve in your wastage. So from there, when you have the money, and then the MIDA have this grant called SAG grant, a System Automation Grant, helping the local industry. I think if you anybody want this, I think they're giving up 500,000 grant. You can log into our website. We have this SAG grant, help you, to come in to look at your factory. We can help you advise you what to automate, and then what are the things you need to invest. Yeah, automation will become a very, very important, because especially right now, you don't want to have, hard to get cheap labor, hard to get foreign workers, all this restriction of traveling. So my advice to you is get your SOP right, and then work with, I think Maida have this SAG grant. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think there was some great piece of advice. And then your point with 300 ringgit, that you felt like it's like a trophy. It's like an endorsement, right? I mean,
Yes.
these are very, very important insights. Actually, thanks for sharing with our audience on this one. So we are just running out of time. Maybe I'll go to each one of you for just 1 minute closure from your side. Patrick, I'll start with you. StanChart being a global bank, how do you think it can really support the Malaysia's trade corridors for investment and trade? And any insights on that, or any closing remarks you would like to have for the audience today? Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Abra. I think it's great to see the energy and the discussion from our trade and also from Mr. Chua. And clearly, notwithstanding how tough COVID is, and the human tragedy and the issues we're dealing with, it's good to see the confidence, the trade numbers picking up, companies like Mr. Chua's doing all those great things, but starting small, but really flourishing and doing really well. So I think I'd say that's there's a lot we can take away with this in terms of lessons learned. Standard Chartered, obviously, as an international bank, we are very well placed to support all Malaysian corporate needs, particularly as you look at Asia, right? And I think Asia will continue to be such an important market for trade, for economic growth. We know that you just look at ASEAN, there's still tremendous growth potential in ASEAN, given you have emerging economies, you have a young population, many the larger markets like Indonesia, like Vietnam. So not only do you have more manufacturing and supply chains moving here and growing economies, but you also have an emerging young workforce who are smart, well-educated, who will be embracing all these new technologies. So I think even just looking at ASEAN, where we're present in all 10 markets, we see really good opportunities to support companies in their growth ambitions, whether it's helping you with trade, helping you with your cash needs. And then going broader, I think China will continue to be an economic powerhouse. It will continue to be our biggest trade partner. And then going even beyond that, US and Europe, they may be a bit further away, but we still see good cross-border opportunities. So think about Standard Chartered, how we can support you through this. We are, like a lot of you, investing in digitalization. So we're here to help you with that journey in terms of digitalizing your financial needs, your trade needs. And the other area that I think we're also investing very heavily is sustainability, where it is core to us as well, and we can help give you advice and think about how you can look at that angle and how you can benefit from potential opportunities there. Thanks, Abraham.
Thanks, Patrick, for joining and your valuable insights. Puan, so your closing remarks from your side. You work very closely with all the trade and exporters here.
Thank you, Abrar. My parting remarks would be, of course, this has been mentioned again and again, but I think you have to say it like a broken record because it's so important, digitalization. And this pandemic has proven the importance, how paramount, how important digitalization is, and there are a lot of assistance offered by the government, by different agencies for different means. I talked about e-commerce, and then there's also on the automation by other sister agencies. And then we talk about even in our promotion, we are going digital. We are also now engaging more with key opinion leaders, KOL, to make our product more attractive and more familiar to the local market, and the agenda of sustainability, because sustainability is so important because it differentiates us. We have a cutting edge in the sense that it's not about just the product, but the process and how the people that was involved in manufacturing that product, and how we take care of our planet in producing that product. And when we talk about this FTAs, of course, and I see some questioning about, we are producing more or less the same product, so how can we be competitive? Actually, because it's a complex supply chain. It's not just one company manufactures and then they can get it from a single source. And this pandemic has really shown the urgency of companies to not put their suppliers, not put your eggs in one basket. So they are looking for new suppliers, and if we have the skill set, we do have the quality, the assurance, we can be able to penetrate into those markets. And also there's question about, sometimes certifications are not accepted in other markets. That's why having an FTA, having dialogue partners are so important, because then we have a direct access, we have a platform, because we are like the preferred partner. If we are talking about an analogy to this is like you have a preferred card, loyalty card, so you can negotiate, you have a higher leverage from the other normal customers. So there's more room for discussions, for mutual recognition arrangements to accept our certification, and to ensure that the non-tariff barriers, the cumbersome registration and things that are enforced by government sometimes to ensure their local companies are protected. So we have a leverage to negotiate those deals, so to ensure that those measures are dismantled and make it easier for everyone to trade. So do engage with Matrade if you're not already a Matrade member. And yes, we have charted out our national trade blueprint for the next 5 years. We look forward to more engagement with companies and with stakeholders such as you. Thank you so much, Abang.
Thank you, Puan. I mean, there were a lot of questions coming to Matrade, which probably if later on we can get those answered, because of time we could not cover all. There were some very relevant questions. So, Mr. Chua, last your closing comments, and then we'll close the Q&A and the panel. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say for the next few years, there's a lot of opportunity, especially in the E&D sector, especially on the automation sector. The reason why I say there's a lot of opportunity because of the 5G, because of the online business now become a new norm. When you do online business, you're talking about electronics, you're talking about automation, you're talking about, the software system, everything. So the sector, especially in E&E software, these are the important sector for Malaysian entrepreneur. Let's say you want to venture into any business. These are the opportunity, because they will never be a sunset industry, because this technology keep on revolving, keep on growing, keep on, getting better. It's become like one of the disruptive technology. Today, during this pandemic, you look at around, who are the company that are making a lot of money? Those are the phone maker, computer makers, now going for ESG, green, EV car. These are those electronics. So I think if Malaysia position ourselves correctly, government with strong support, local SME, to be part of the global supply chain, I think Malaysia will grow. So don't solely depending on MMC. Local SME become the global supply chain in this sector. I think Malaysia will continue to be, growing in terms of our GDP, growing in terms of our economy, and also upskill our local people rather than go for, those operator job. No more. Those who are in the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've run out of time, and with that, I would like to thank my fantastic panelists for really sharing great insights. I'm sure there will be a lot of takeaway. I would like to thank all the viewers for staying with us and supporting the Expo Excellence Awards, thriving in adversity. So I think thank you very much once again. And with that note, I'll close the panel discussion and hand over back to Star Host. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our moderator, Mr. Abra Anwar, and our 3 expert panelists, Mr. Patrick Lee, Wan Sharimaton Matsaleh, and Mr. Chua Chun Bin. I am sure our audience has a better understanding of the opportunities in exports and investments across trade corridors, and will seek out opportunities to further expand overseas. Before we end, please help us to complete the evaluation poll, which will appear on your screen right now. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon, and a big thank you to our partner, Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia, and our patron, Martrade. Wishing everyone the best of health. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.